Hey, this is Stephen A. Williams, President and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com. This is a follow-up on the video that I just uploaded regarding New York now allowing non-lawyers to give legal advice to people who are being sued by debt collectors. And I found this article. This was from a couple of years ago, and this is what's, just to show you that things have just gotten worse. That this has been on the radar for a while, but it is actually getting worse. And that's why they're going to they have to allow people to be able to get information from non-lawyers because, they're already being sued. So this is an article from the Pew Research Group. It says growth in debt lawsuits present challenges for courts and consumers. So it says right here, I'm just going to kind of briefly go through it. Uh, it says here that a report released today by the Pew Charitable Trust finds that lawsuits brought by a company with an attorney versus an individual who has no legal representations are increasingly dominated state civil courts. Less than 10% of defendants in debt collection lawsuits studied from 2010 to 2019 had counsel. That's a one in 10 compared with nearly all plaintiffs because debt collector is going to have uh, an attorney representing them. So it says here that it says the how debt collectors are transforming the business of state courts, examines trends in debt collection lawsuits across state and local civil courts over the past 2 decades. So over 20 years this has been going on. So it's said here that in these states, it says here debt claims that were more common type of civil case in 8 of the 12 states for which at some court data were available: Alaska, Colorado, Missouri, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Utah, and Virginia. And then it says here, as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to shutter business and disrupt the national economy. So, this was a few years back. The number of debt collection lawsuits may continue to grow. So we're going to move down here, and these were their key findings. It said people sued uh, for debts rarely have legal representation, but those who tend to have better outcomes, according to the studies in multiple jurisdictions, consumers with legal representation in a debt claim are more likely to win their case outright or reach a mutual agreed settlement. Look at that right there. Boy, I say this all the time. I think that the universe brings me these articles because this is like if you go through my videos, this is exactly what I say to people, and you're having it validated by an organization that has studied this. Um, let's move on. Debt lawsuits frequently end in default judgments, indicating that many people do not respond when sued for a debt. Over the past decade, in jurisdictions for which data are available, courts have resolved more than 70% of debt collection lawsuits with default judgments for the plaintiff. Unlike most court rulings, the judgments are issued as the name indicated by default and without consideration of the facts of the complaint. And instead of issued in court where the defendants does not show up to court or respond to the lawsuit, the prevalence of these judgments indicated that millions of consumers do not participate in claims against them. Default moving down default judgments exact heavy tolls on consumers. Courts routinely order consumers to pay accrued interest as well as court fees, which together can exceed the original amount owed. Other harmful consequences can include garnishment of wages or bank accounts, seizure of personal property, and even incarceration. Look at that right there. Now, when they say incarceration, they could probably mean like child support. I know in some states, child support. Also, incarceration could mean if they ask you to come to court to attest to a debt and you disregard going to court, they can put a warrant for your arrest to make you come to court to say how you're going to pay that debt. But for all of those who claim that you can't go to jail over a debt, this is them. This was a research organization that just does research, and they put it right here, not to scare anybody. I'm just telling you this is a tactic that a debt collector can pull. Mainly, I've only seen it done in Minnesota, and you can do your research on that. States collect and report little data regarding the civil legal system. Although 49 states and the District of Columbia provide public records of civil cases each year, 38 states and the district include no details about the number of debt cases. And in 2018, only two states provided figures on default judgments in any of their states' debt cases. Texas is the only state that reports all types of cases, including outcomes across the courts. One thing that's benefit and uh, not a benefit for the state of Texas, they do not allow garnishments, but in the state of Texas, they can raid your bank account. They can seize bank accounts. So in the states that do not allow garnishments, they do allow the seizing of bank accounts and personal property. So there's a good and bad with that. States are beginning to recognize and enact reforms to address the challenges of debt claims. From 2009 to 2019, 12 states made changes to the policy, seven by legislation and five through court rules, to impose courts' ability to meet the need of all debt claim litigants. Litigants. By having clear data on the numbers of debt claims in our courts, were available to see the rise of these cases in our state, said Nathan Hatch, Chief Justice of Texas Supreme Court and President of Conference of Chief Justices. The shifting landscape of cases resolved in civil courts require us to look closely at the way we handle these cases. The report identifies several steps that states can take to improve the handling of debt collection cases. Pay attention to this. You that are still here watching this video, pay attention because this is the stuff that I tell you about, and we can all learn more about how to fight back against debt collectors. Track data about debt claims to better understand the extent to which these lawsuits affect parties at which stages of civil proceedings courts can more appropriately support all litigants. That means on both sides. Review state policies, court rules, and common practices to identify procedures that can ensure that both sides in a debt collection case had an opportunity to effectively present their case. So you have a right to make them prove. Like if you're being sued, you have a right to make them prove. And what usually happens, people walk into court, they ask them what about this, and people just say, well, I don't know how I'm going to pay. When you have a right to actually challenge every document that they brought to court, you have a right to have them unredact everything that they have redacted. You have a right to make them prove how they came up with that amount, and they can't do that because they're not the original creditor. They don't have anything other than a computer file that had a whole bunch of names and redacted information and the last four account numbers and a couple of statements. That's all they have. Examples of such reforms include ensuring that all parties are notified by lawsuits requiring plaintiffs to demonstrate that the name defendant owes the debt sought and that the debt is owned by the plaintiff, and in some states, enhanced enforcement of prohibitions on lawsuits for which the legal rights to sue has expired. Uh, where they're talking about if you don't tell a debt collector that you know that they can't collect on a debt that is past the statute of limitations, some of these debt collectors will try to sue people, or they'll try to get you to reset the debt by paying a dollar on it, and they reset it. And that's really a violation because most people just didn't know their rights. Modernize the relationship between the courts and their use by providing relevant, timely procedure information to all parties and moving more processes online to make them more accessible to users with or without attorneys. Debt collection cases, uh, what is that? E- Optimize the challenges faced. Why would they want to use that word there? Uh, Facing the civil legal system nationwide. So to sum this all up, they know that this is a problem and that they're going to have to start doing something about it. People cannot afford to pay for lawyers to represent them. And why are you going to pay for a lawyer to represent you on a debt case where even if you outright win, you still have to pay a certain amount for a lawyer? They're not going to sit there and do this stuff for free. They're going to do the research. That's going to be billed hours. And then if you lose your attorney does a settlement, the attorney is going to charge 15% for off of the amount that they settled the debt for. So you're going to end up paying more than it would be for a debt collector. And see, the debt collectors, they know that. They know that if you go to get a lawyer and you end up, and most of the debt collection, the lawyers that represent defendants they're going to mostly try to push you to going into a settlement or doing bankruptcy. I mean, that's just the way it is because they don't see any light at the end of the tunnel trying to go up against them, a debt collector, because most of them don't know how to fight back against debt collectors. They just don't do that type of work all the time. You know, you got to find someone special in that, and they're going to still potentially probably only end up getting you with a settlement, and then you're gonna have to pay them their fees, and you're gonna have to pay the settlement, and you're gonna be like, man, I just I don't even know if this was worth the time. I could have just even paid the whole amount, and I would have paid less than what I got to pay the attorney. So, but I just want to share this article with you because this is it is getting worse, but I do see light at the end of the tunnel. They're going to start really allowing people to get help. Uh, there is help out there already, but I mean, they're going to make it more available to people. I have seen instructions from where they're giving courts are giving people more instructions on their rights and what they can do. They're not telling them how to fight back against debt collectors, but they're just letting them know that you do have a right to make them prove what they're putting in that complaint. All right, if you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my two-phase settlement process to help you with repair your credit and get out of debt. If you need your credit report scores, go to the website your3scores.com to grab all three credit reports: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and get all three scores. And this will also help you. You might find that the debt that's collector that's coming after you is coming after you for a debt that's past statute of limitations, or the information on your report. Something that you need to watch out for with debt collectors is that if you had the original creditor put that the debt was canceled, that they could be coming after you for a debt that they can't even legally collect from you, even if it's not past the legal statute of limitation. Because if a original creditor does a 1099-C file cancellation of debt on that your debt, that it's done and over with. They cannot collect on that debt. That debt is totally discharged. Next thing is, if you have debt collectors coming at you, grab my 3 pack of letters. Please make a donation when you get it. It can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Um, the link is below here. You can get my cease and desist collection activities letter, statute of limitations letter, and my debt validation letter. It has instructions on there. Use the one that's appropriate to your situation. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you comment. Make sure you like this video. Thank you for your time.